Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Meet Sophie, a young woman with dreams of a peaceful life, free from complications. But things take an unexpected turn when she is thrust into a world of power, wealth, and a contract that changes everything. Sophie never asked for this, but now she has no choice but to play along with the billionaire who holds the key to her future. We first find Sophie in a small apartment in the heart of the city. Her days are filled with the routine of working multiple jobs to pay rent, trying to keep her head above water. Life has never been easy for her, but she's made peace with it. That is, until she receives a phone call that will change her life forever. Sophie picks up the phone, expecting another telemarketer or perhaps a call from her sister, but instead, it's a voice she's never heard before. A calm, deep voice, the kind that seems to command attention without even trying. "Miss Walker," the voice says, "I have a proposal for you." Sophie's heart skips a beat. "A proposal?" she repeats, confused. The voice continues, explaining that she's being offered a chance to escape her financial struggles, if she agrees to enter into a marriage contract with a man named Lucas Sterling, a billionaire businessman who needs a wife for 1 year. The terms are simple: sign the contract, play the role of his wife, and in return, she'll receive a generous sum of money that will secure her future. Sophie, naturally, is stunned. She tells herself that it's a scam, a joke, but the man on the other end of the line is serious. Lucas Sterling is a name that commands respect in the business world. His company is one of the largest in the country, and his personal wealth is beyond what most people could ever imagine. This isn't a joke. This is real. Sophie is given a day to think about it. And after hours of pacing her small apartment, the weight of her circumstances becomes too much to ignore. With mounting debt and no other way out, she reluctantly agrees to the deal. Little does she know, agreeing to this contract will lead her into a world of unexpected emotions, where the line between fake and real becomes dangerously blurred. Let's return to the moment Sophie first meets Lucas Sterling. He's tall, with sharp features and a presence that's impossible to ignore. The man exudes power, and Sophie feels her pulse race when they meet. His eyes scan her, assessing her as if she were a business deal rather than a person. And yet, as she looks at him, she wonders if this might be the first time she's ever felt completely out of her depth. As they shake hands, the deal is sealed. Sophie is now bound to Lucas by a contract that promises a year of pretending to be his wife. What neither of them expects, though, is the undeniable tension that starts to grow between them. What was supposed to be a simple arrangement begins to feel like something far more complicated. Now, Sophie finds herself living in a mansion that feels more like a cage than a home. Lucas is cold, distant, and always calculating, but as the days go by, Sophie starts to see glimpses of something more beneath his hard exterior. Could it be possible that this contract marriage, which started as a business deal, might turn into something neither of them anticipated? Stay tuned as Sophie navigates this dangerous game of fake love, where the stakes are higher than she ever imagined, and where the lines between what's real and what's fake are more blurry than ever. After Sophie agrees to the contract, she finds herself in a world she never imagined. Lucas Sterling's mansion is nothing like the tiny apartment she used to call home. The grandiose estate, surrounded by manicured gardens, feels more like a palace than a place for a simple, struggling woman like Sophie. It's all so overwhelming, but as the days pass, Sophie has no choice but to adapt. She moves into one of the guest rooms, her belongings now neatly tucked away in a massive walk-in closet. It's strange, surreal, and yet, she tries to remind herself that it's only temporary. Lucas, on the other hand, remains distant. He's everything she expected, cold, efficient, and always focused on business. He barely speaks to her outside of the terms of their agreement, and when he does, his words are brief, almost curt. Sophie can't help but feel like a stranger in his world, a pawn in his game. She's here to play the role of his wife, not a partner, and she can feel the weight of that every day. There are moments when Sophie tries to engage with Lucas, to get to know him, but he shuts her down almost immediately. One evening, she finds herself in the expansive kitchen, trying to prepare a simple dinner. She's struggling to chop vegetables when Lucas walks in. He stands at the doorway, watching her in silence for a moment before speaking. "You're doing it wrong," he says, his voice calm, almost patronizing. Sophie looks up, startled. "Excuse me?" she asks. He walks over, his presence looming over her as he reaches for the knife in her hand. "You need to hold it like this," he explains, guiding her hand into the proper position. Sophie's heart skips a beat, but she tries to remain composed, not wanting to seem weak in front of him. As Lucas shows her how to chop the vegetables, his hand brushes against hers, just for a moment. It's nothing, really, just a brief touch. But Sophie feels a spark, something she hasn't felt in a long time. She quickly shakes it off, telling herself that it's just nerves, nothing more. The next few days are more of the same. Sophie goes through the motions of playing the perfect wife. She attends social events with Lucas, sits beside him at business dinners, and smiles for the cameras when necessary. But all the while, she can't help but feel the distance between them growing. It's as if she's living in a world where nothing is real, where her emotions don't matter, and where the only thing that matters is keeping up the facade. One night, after a particularly exhausting gala, Sophie finds herself alone in the massive living room, her thoughts a whirlwind. She doesn't know why she's still here, why she's still playing this part. It's not like Lucas needs her. She's just a piece of the puzzle, a way for him to fulfill his contract, and yet, something inside her won't let go. She wonders if, deep down, he feels the same pull she does. Just as she's lost in her thoughts, the door opens, and there he is, Lucas. His expression is unreadable as he walks into the room, but there's something different in his eyes tonight. He stands in front of her, and for the first time since they met, he actually looks at her as if she matters. "You're not like the others," Lucas says, his voice low, almost too quiet to hear. Sophie looks up at him, confusion written on her face. "What do you mean?" she asks. He hesitates for a moment before answering, his gaze softening. "You're not like the women I'm used to. You're real. And I don't know how to deal with that." For a moment, Sophie doesn't know what to say. She's shocked, her mind racing to process his words. Could it be that Lucas is starting to see her as more than just a contract? Could he actually care about her, even in the smallest way? Before she can respond, Lucas steps back, his expression hardening again. "Forget I said anything," he says quickly, his usual cold demeanor returning. But Sophie can't forget. In that moment, something shifts. She realizes that maybe, just maybe, this fake marriage isn't as fake as she thought. There's something growing between them, something neither of them expected. The next few days are filled with tension. Sophie tries to focus on her role as Lucas's wife, but the air between them is thick with unspoken words. She's not sure where this is going, but she knows one thing for certain: her feelings for Lucas are becoming more complicated with each passing day. She's not sure if she can continue pretending this is all just a contract, especially when it feels like her heart is starting to play a bigger role than she'd ever imagined. Stay tuned, because the lines between what's real and what's fake are about to get even more blurred. The days continue to pass in the mansion, and with each one, Sophie finds herself more entangled in a world she never thought she would be a part of. The line between reality and the fake marriage contract she agreed to is starting to blur. As much as she tries to maintain her distance, as much as she tells herself this is just a temporary arrangement, the feelings she's developing for Lucas are undeniable. And Lucas, well, he's starting to change too. The cold, distant billionaire who seemed like nothing more than a business partner has begun to show sides of himself Sophie never expected. One morning, Sophie is in the garden, her thoughts drifting as she picks flowers for a vase. It's peaceful here, in the vast grounds of the estate, but her mind is anything but calm. She's not sure what's happening between her and Lucas anymore. There are moments when he seems to care, little things he does, like when he brings her coffee in the mornings without her asking, or when he insists on driving her to events even though he doesn't have to. It's confusing. The man who hired her to be his wife for a year, someone who should be emotionally detached, is becoming more and more human in her eyes. That afternoon, Lucas calls for her to meet him in the library. When Sophie arrives, she finds him standing near the large windows, looking out at the sprawling estate. His back is turned, but he seems lost in thought. When he hears her footsteps, he turns around, his expression neutral, though there's something in his eyes, a flicker of something that wasn't there before. "I need you to attend a charity event with me tonight," he says. His tone is businesslike, as always, but Sophie can tell there's a layer of tension underneath. She nods, trying to ignore the quickening of her heartbeat. "Of course. I'll be ready." As the evening approaches, Sophie gets dressed in a stunning black gown that Lucas had ordered for her, another thing she can't ignore. His attention to detail, his insistence on choosing every outfit, is both flattering and unnerving. When she walks into the living room to meet him, his eyes briefly flicker with approval, but there's a fleeting moment of something else, something more personal, that catches her off guard. They leave for the event together, and as they walk through the grand entrance of the gala, Sophie feels the eyes of the room turn toward them. They are a striking couple, Lucas in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, and Sophie in her elegant gown. The whispers start almost immediately, and Sophie can feel the weight of the world on her shoulders. She's not just his wife for the night, she's the centerpiece of a carefully constructed image. She's no longer just playing a role. She's becoming a part of his world. As the evening goes on, Sophie finds herself growing more comfortable in Lucas's presence. The cold barrier between them begins to crumble ever so slightly. They talk, genuinely talk, for the first time in weeks, and Sophie can't help but feel like she's glimpsing the man beneath the business facade. There are moments of laughter, moments where she forgets she's playing a part in this complicated arrangement. When the evening comes to an end, they head back to the mansion in a silence that's oddly comfortable. But as they arrive at the gates, Lucas turns to her, his voice soft, a stark contrast to his usual cold tone. "You looked beautiful tonight," he says quietly. Sophie is caught off guard. She's used to his compliments being about her appearance in a detached, almost clinical way. But this feels different. Her heart skips a beat, and for a moment, she forgets how to breathe. She opens her mouth to say something, but before she can, Lucas adds, "Thank you for playing your part so well. You've been better than I expected." It's not much, but Sophie feels the impact of his words. She wonders if this is the beginning of something real, or if she's just fooling herself. As they step into the house, she can't shake the feeling that things are changing between them. Slowly, but surely, Lucas is becoming someone she's starting to care for. The next few days are filled with moments like these, small, unexpected gestures from Lucas that make Sophie question everything she thought she knew about him. He begins to ask her opinion on things that have nothing to do with the contract, like what she thinks of a business deal he's working on or what kind of music she likes. He seems genuinely interested, and each interaction leaves her wondering if this is a shift in their relationship, or just another layer of the act they're playing. But there's still a distance, a wall that Lucas can't quite let go of. He remains guarded, and Sophie is left with more questions than answers. Is he starting to care for her? Or is he simply trying to fulfill his part of the bargain without admitting any emotions? Sophie doesn't know. But what she does know is that her feelings for him are becoming harder to ignore. Stay tuned, because Sophie's journey is about to take an unexpected turn, one that will test everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and the contract that brought them together. As the weeks pass, Sophie feels herself becoming more deeply entangled in the web she never expected to find herself in. What started as a simple contract, a business arrangement meant to last only a year, is now a tangled mess of emotions, confusion, and longing. Every day, she wakes up in the grand mansion that feels both like a prison and a home. She's no longer just playing the role of Lucas Sterling's wife. The lines between their fake marriage and real feelings are becoming more and more difficult to distinguish. Lucas, too, is changing. He's not the cold, distant man who hired her all those months ago. Something has shifted in him. There are moments when their interactions are unexpectedly warm, like when he offers her a smile for the first time in a long while, or when he reaches out to touch her hand in a fleeting but meaningful gesture. These small moments might seem insignificant to an outsider, but to Sophie, they mean everything. They make her question everything she's been telling herself. She's been trying to stay emotionally detached, but it's getting harder every day. One night, after dinner, Lucas takes Sophie to the rooftop of the mansion to look at the stars. It's an impromptu idea, one he hasn't mentioned before, but Sophie finds herself intrigued by it. The view from the roof is breathtaking, the city lights below twinkle like a sea of stars, and the cool night air is a welcome contrast to the warmth inside the mansion. They stand side by side, not saying much at first, just taking in the quiet beauty of the night. After a long pause, Lucas speaks. "I never thought I'd be in a situation like this," he says, his voice soft, almost vulnerable. "I didn't expect to feel anything." Sophie's heart races as she looks at him, trying to decipher the meaning behind his words. He turns to her, his gaze intense. "I didn't expect to feel this way about you." Sophie's breath catches in her throat. She knows she should keep her emotions in check, but the honesty in his eyes shakes her to the core. She wants to say something, anything, but the words seem to catch in her throat. Instead, she simply nods, her chest tight with conflicting emotions. She has been waiting for this moment, hoping for it, and yet she isn't sure how to respond. Lucas steps closer, and for a moment, the world seems to fade away. It's just the two of them, standing under the stars. His hand gently brushes against hers, and Sophie feels the warmth of his touch spread through her. She's no longer just pretending. She's no longer just fulfilling her role. In this moment, there's something real between them, something she can't deny. But before Sophie can respond, the moment is broken. Lucas pulls back slightly, his expression guarded once again. "This is complicated," he mutters under his breath. "We're not supposed to feel anything." His words are cold, and Sophie can feel the walls between them go back up. She knows she can't push him. She knows that their arrangement is built on lies, on promises they've both made to stay emotionally detached. The rest of the evening is spent in silence as they head back inside. The tension in the air is palpable, and Sophie can't help but wonder what this means for their future. The last few weeks have been filled with so much emotion, so many unspoken words, so many moments that felt like they were leading to something more. But with every step they take forward, it feels like Lucas pulls back 2 steps. Over the next few days, Sophie tries to keep her distance. She focuses on the tasks she's been given, the events she has to attend, and the role she still has to play as Lucas's wife. But it's impossible to ignore the feelings that have been growing between them. The way he looks at her when he thinks she isn't paying attention, the way he touches her just a little too often, the way his voice softens when he speaks to her, all of it is beginning to make Sophie question everything she thought she knew about their contract. Lucas, too, seems to be struggling. He's distant one moment, warm the next. Sophie can't tell whether he's pushing her away because he's afraid or if he's truly trying to protect himself from the mess of emotions that are swirling between them. The only thing she knows for certain is that this fake marriage, this contract they entered into, is no longer just a business deal. It's something far more complicated than either of them could have ever imagined. One afternoon, Sophie is in the garden, reading a book when she hears the sound of footsteps approaching. She looks up to see Lucas walking toward her, his hands in his pockets. He's looking at her, his expression unreadable. "Sophie," he says, his voice steady but serious. "We need to talk." Sophie closes her book, her heart pounding in her chest. This is it. This is the moment where everything changes. She doesn't know what to expect, but she knows one thing: this conversation will determine the future of their relationship, whatever that may be. Stay tuned, because Sophie is about to discover just how much her life, and her heart, have been changed by the man she once thought was just a business arrangement. The conversation with Lucas that Sophie had been dreading finally comes. She sits in the garden, her heart racing, as Lucas stands before her, his expression unreadable. The air is thick with anticipation, and Sophie can feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She knows this talk could change everything, but she has no idea what direction it will take. Lucas takes a deep breath, his usual confidence replaced by something softer, something more uncertain. "Sophie," he begins, his voice quieter than usual, "I don't know what's happening between us. But I can't pretend anymore. This thing we have isn't just a contract. It's becoming more than that, and I can't ignore it. And neither can you." His words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Sophie feels the tension in her chest tighten even more, her mind spinning with a million thoughts. She wants to say something, anything, but the words refuse to come. Lucas pauses for a moment, his eyes flickering with a vulnerability she's never seen before. "When I hired you, I didn't expect this," he continues, his gaze not leaving hers. "I didn't expect you to be the one person who made me question everything. I didn't expect you to become important to me. The truth of his words hits Sophie like a tidal wave. She's been trying so hard to deny it, to keep her distance, but she's fallen for him. She has, and now that he's said it aloud, she can no longer pretend that she hasn't. It's like a weight has been lifted off her shoulders, but it also feels like the beginning of something terrifying. Sophie stands up, her mind racing, her heart pounding in her chest. "Lucas," she says, her voice shaking slightly, "I didn't know what to expect when I agreed to this. I didn't know how I would feel. But I can't ignore what's happening either." She takes a step closer to him, her breath coming faster now. "I never thought I'd fall for you. This was supposed to be just a deal, but it's become so much more. I can't deny it anymore. I care about you." For a moment, there's silence between them. Neither of them moves, neither of them says anything. It's as if the world is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Then, slowly, Lucas steps closer to her, his gaze softening. "I've never let anyone get close to me," he admits, his voice almost a whisper. "I've always kept people at a distance, even the ones I cared about. But with you, it's different. I don't know why, but it is." Sophie feels her heart swell at his words. This is what she's been waiting for, what she's been hoping for. The walls that Lucas has built around himself are finally starting to come down, and she can see the man behind the business persona, the man who has been hiding behind the mask for so long. She reaches out, tentatively, and places her hand on his. It's the first time she's ever touched him without fear or hesitation, and it feels right. Lucas looks down at her hand, then back into her eyes. His lips curl into a small smile, but it's different from the usual cold, calculated smiles he gives to the world. This one is real, genuine. It's a smile that says, "I trust you." And for the first time in their relationship, Sophie feels like she can trust him too. "I don't know what this means for us," Lucas says softly, "but I don't want to lose what we have. Not now, not ever." Sophie's chest tightens with emotion. She doesn't have all the answers, but in this moment, she knows one thing for sure, she's no longer just playing a part in a contract. She's no longer just pretending to be his wife. She's his, and he's hers, and whatever happens next, they'll face it together. As the days go by, their relationship continues to evolve. They start to spend more time together, not just as business partners or husband and wife for the sake of appearances, but as two people who are learning to care for each other in ways neither of them expected. Lucas begins to open up more, sharing things about his past that he's kept buried for years. Sophie listens, and for the first time, she feels like she's seeing the real Lucas, the man who's been hiding behind the wealth and the mask of indifference. But even as they grow closer, doubts begin to creep in. Sophie wonders if Lucas's feelings for her are real, or if he's just caught up in the idea of something he can't control. And Lucas, for his part, struggles with his own emotions. He's never allowed anyone to get close enough to hurt him, but Sophie is different. She's breaking down walls he never thought would come down. The question is it too late for them to have something real, or have they both already crossed a line that can't be uncrossed? Stay tuned, because Sophie and Lucas's journey is far from over. The stakes are higher than ever, and they're about to face challenges that will test their relationship in ways neither of them ever imagined. The days that follow feel like a whirlwind. Sophie and Lucas's connection deepens, yet with every step forward, the weight of their contract looms larger. As their emotions grow more tangled, they are forced to confront the realities of their situation. The world around them sees them as a perfect couple, the wealthy businessman and his beautiful wife, but what no one knows is that their marriage is built on a lie. Sophie is still struggling to figure out what this all means for her future, while Lucas, for all his success and control, is just as uncertain about where this is heading. One evening, Lucas takes Sophie out to a charity event, a gala with the elite of the city. They're the picture of perfection, Lucas in his black tuxedo and Sophie in an exquisite red gown. The flashes of cameras, the whispers from the crowd, it's all part of the act. But Sophie can feel the difference this time. It's not just a performance. For the first time, she notices the way Lucas keeps his hand on her lower back, the way his eyes soften when they share a private moment in the crowd. It's as if they are no longer pretending, and the realization makes her heart race. She wonders if the feelings they've both tried so hard to ignore are finally becoming impossible to deny. After the event, they return to the mansion in silence. Sophie feels an unfamiliar tension in the air, and she wonders if Lucas is thinking the same thing. She can tell that something is changing between them, something real, but she doesn't know if they're ready to face it. When they enter the foyer, Lucas turns to her, his face unreadable. "Sophie," he says quietly, his voice lower than usual. "I need to talk to you." Her pulse quickens as she follows him into the study, her thoughts racing. This is it. This is the conversation she's been both dreading and hoping for. Lucas shuts the door behind them, his eyes locking onto hers as he takes a deep breath. "I know we've been pretending for a long time," Lucas begins, his tone serious. "But I can't pretend anymore. I've never been good at this, at letting someone in. But I've been thinking about everything that's happened between us. About what we've been building." His words hang in the air, heavy with meaning, and Sophie feels a flicker of hope rise in her chest. She's been waiting for him to open up, and now it seems like he finally is. "What we've been building?" Sophie repeats, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas runs a hand through his hair, looking conflicted. "I never thought this would happen. I never thought I'd let someone get close to me. But with you, it's different. You've made me want more than just the arrangement. And I can't ignore it any longer." His words are raw, and Sophie can feel the vulnerability behind them. This is not the detached businessman she first met. This is a man who is laying his emotions bare, something he's clearly never done before. Sophie takes a step closer to him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Lucas," she says softly, her voice filled with emotion, "I've been feeling the same way. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't want to admit that this wasn't just a contract for me anymore. But I've fallen for you. I've fallen for you. In a way I never expected." The words hang in the air between them, and for a long moment, neither of them speaks. Lucas looks at her, his eyes searching hers for any hint of doubt, but all he finds is the truth. The truth that they are both in this together, in a way they never imagined when this started. Finally, Lucas takes her hand, his grip gentle but firm. "I never wanted to hurt you," he says quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "I never wanted to get so tangled up in this. But I can't walk away now. I don't want to walk away. I don't know what this means for us, but I'm willing to figure it out." Sophie feels her heart swell at his words. This is the moment she's been waiting for, the moment where the walls between them finally come down. For the first time since their contract began, she feels like they're truly seeing each other. Not just as husband and wife, but as two people who've grown to care for each other in ways neither of them expected. But even as she stands there with him, holding his hand, doubts still linger. Sophie knows that this is only the beginning, that there are challenges ahead that neither of them could have predicted. Their contract, their agreement, it was always supposed to be temporary. But now, with everything changing, she has to ask herself, can they turn this into something real? Or are they just two people who got caught up in something neither of them fully understood? As they stand together, Lucas looks down at her with a quiet resolve. "We'll take this one day at a time," he says, his voice steady. "But I'm not going to let you go." Sophie nods, her heart beating faster. She doesn't know where this journey will take them, but for the first time, she feels hopeful. She feels like they might just have a chance at something real. Stay tuned, because what comes next will test everything they've built, and everything they thought they knew about love and commitment. In the days that follow, Sophie and Lucas grow even closer. The walls they both carefully built around their emotions are slowly crumbling, and for the first time, they are beginning to understand what it means to truly be together, not just as part of a contract, but as two people who care deeply for each other. But as they start to navigate this new territory, the reality of their situation starts to weigh heavily on them. The contract, the deal that brought them together, still exists, and neither of them can ignore it. Sophie knows that they've crossed a line, but she also knows that this is more than just a fleeting connection. This is real. And yet, the fear of what's to come hangs over them like a shadow. One afternoon, as they sit together on the terrace, sipping coffee, Lucas turns to Sophie, his eyes serious, as if he's been thinking about something for a while. "Sophie," he says softly, his voice low, "I've been thinking a lot about where we're headed. About what we want." He pauses, watching her closely, his expression conflicted. "I can't keep pretending that this is just a contract anymore. I don't want to pretend. But we both know that the terms of this agreement are clear. There's an end date. What happens when that day comes?" Sophie feels a lump form in her throat. She's been avoiding that very question, not wanting to confront the reality of it. The idea of their marriage ending, of going back to the lives they had before, without each other, is something she hasn't allowed herself to think about. But now that Lucas has brought it up, she can no longer pretend it's not there. She takes a deep breath and looks at him, her heart heavy with the weight of his words. "I don't know," she admits quietly. "I've been trying not to think about it, too. I've been telling myself that it's just temporary, that it's just a contract, but it feels like more now. And I don't know if I'm ready to let go. I don't know if I can." Her voice wavers slightly, but she steadies herself, looking directly into Lucas's eyes. "But I also don't know if you feel the same way." Lucas's expression softens, and for a moment, Sophie sees the vulnerability she's come to recognize in him. "I feel the same way," he says, his voice steady. "More than I ever thought I would. But this isn't just about us anymore. We have to face the reality of what happens when this contract ends. You have your life, and I have mine. And I've been wondering, are we ready to risk everything for something that started as a lie?" Sophie's chest tightens at his words. The fear that has been lurking in the back of her mind begins to surface. She knows what he means. This is real, but it started as a business arrangement. Their lives are intertwined now, but the clock is ticking, and soon, they will have to decide whether to continue or let go. She looks at him, her mind racing, but her heart knows what it wants. It's not about the contract anymore. It's about them. I don't know what the future holds, she says, her voice filled with emotion. But I do know that I want to be with you. I want to see where this can go. I don't want to go back to the way things were before. Not after everything we've been through. Not after everything I feel for you. Lucas looks at her for a long moment, his eyes searching hers, as if trying to read her soul. Then, slowly, he nods. I don't want to go back either. I want to try. But we have to be honest with each other, Sophie. We have to be willing to face the future, no matter how uncertain it is. And we have to make a decision about where we go from here. Sophie nods, her heart pounding in her chest. She doesn't have all the answers, but for the first time, she feels like they're on the same page. They're no longer just playing the roles of husband and wife, they're becoming something real, something worth fighting for. And whatever happens, she knows one thing for sure, she's not ready to walk away. Not yet. Stay tuned, because the decisions they make now will change everything for them. The future is uncertain, but they are about to take the first steps towards something that could change their lives forever. The following days are filled with uncertainty. Sophie and Lucas have come to a quiet agreement, they want to make this work, but neither of them knows how. The weight of the contract still hangs over them, and every time they share a moment, there's the unspoken question, what happens when the year is up? Can they continue beyond the boundaries of the contract, or will they both walk away from something that has become so real? Neither of them has the answer, but they both know that their feelings for each other are deeper than they ever expected. Sophie finds herself spending more time in the mansion than ever before. The life she once considered a temporary arrangement has started to feel like home. She wakes up to Lucas beside her, the soft hum of the city outside the windows, and for the first time in a long while, she feels at peace. But the peace is fleeting. There are moments when she catches Lucas looking at her with an intensity that unsettles her, moments when she wonders if he's thinking the same thing, what happens when the year is over? Can they just turn off these feelings, pretend none of it mattered, and return to their separate lives? One evening, after a long day of meetings and events, Lucas and Sophie sit in the quiet of the living room. The lights from the city twinkle in the distance, and the house is unusually still. For the first time, it feels like they are truly alone, no expectations, no roles to play. It's just them. Sophie, Lucas says, breaking the silence. His voice is soft, almost hesitant. I've been thinking about what you said. About wanting to try, about being with me. His eyes lock with hers, and there's a vulnerability there that she hasn't seen before. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we can have a future, but I don't want to let you go. I don't want to let this go. His words hang in the air, and for a moment, Sophie can't breathe. It's everything she's been afraid to hear, and yet, it's everything she's been waiting for. She wants to say something, to reassure him, but her words feel caught in her throat. She's not sure what she's feeling, fear, hope, confusion. She wants this, she does, but there's still a part of her that's scared to open herself up completely. Lucas, Sophie says softly, her voice trembling. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if we're ready for what's coming. But I know that I don't want to walk away. I don't want to lose you. I've never felt this way before. I don't know if I'm making a mistake, but I know I want to be with you. Lucas looks at her for a long moment, his gaze intense. Then, he takes a deep breath and reaches for her hand, his touch warm against her skin. He gives her a small, reassuring smile, and for the first time in what feels like forever, Sophie feels like they're truly in sync. "We're not making a mistake," Lucas says quietly. "I know this is complicated, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to figure this out with you. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." For the first time, Sophie feels a sense of calm wash over her. The uncertainty, the fear, it's still there, but somehow it feels less overwhelming now. She knows there's still so much they need to figure out, but in this moment, all that matters is that they're choosing to face it together. As the night grows darker, Sophie leans against Lucas, her head resting on his shoulder. It's a quiet moment, one that feels like a promise. They may not have all the answers, but for the first time, they're willing to take the next step. Together. Stay tuned, because what comes next will test their resolve. The future may be uncertain, but one thing is for sure, they're ready to face it, no matter what. Weeks pass, and the uncertainty that once hung between Sophie and Lucas seems to slowly fade, replaced by something much stronger, commitment. They both realize that the contract, the agreement that once defined their relationship, is no longer the core of what binds them together. It's no longer just about the year, the business deal, or the expectations of others. It's about them, about the feelings that have developed, the connection that has grown despite the odds. The more they spend time together, the more they see how much they need each other, how their lives have become intertwined in ways neither could have predicted. One morning, Sophie wakes up early, the light streaming through the windows of their shared bedroom. She turns to see Lucas still asleep beside her, his face softened in peaceful repose. For the first time since they began this journey together, Sophie feels a deep sense of contentment. The fears, the doubts, and the worries that once clouded her mind seem to have settled. She knows what she wants now, and for the first time, she feels certain of it. She wants to build a future with Lucas, one that isn't defined by contracts or temporary arrangements, but by love, trust, and partnership. When Lucas wakes, Sophie looks at him with a newfound sense of certainty. "We've made it through this together," she says softly, brushing a strand of hair away from his face. "And I don't want to go back. I don't want to lose this. Whatever happens next, I want to face it with you. I want to build a life with you." Her voice shakes slightly, but there is no hesitation in her heart. Lucas looks at her, his expression softening, and for the first time, she sees a deep, unspoken emotion in his eyes. He reaches for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I feel the same way, Sophie," he says, his voice steady, but thick with emotion. "I've spent so long keeping people at arm's length, never letting anyone in. But with you, it's different. I don't want to let you go. I don't want this to be just a chapter in our lives. I want it to be the beginning of something real, something lasting." And in that moment, Sophie knows that they are on the same page. They've fought for this, fought through doubts, fears, and the weight of the contract that brought them together in the first place. But now, they don't need the contract. They don't need the artificial barriers that once kept them apart. They've built something real, something worth fighting for. As they sit there together, their hands intertwined, Sophie knows that no matter what challenges lie ahead, they are ready to face them, together. Later that week, Lucas takes Sophie on a trip to the countryside. It's a quiet, peaceful escape, away from the chaos of the city, where they can focus on themselves without the distractions of their everyday lives. It's there, under the wide-open sky, that Lucas turns to Sophie, his eyes serious, his voice softer than she's ever heard it before. I want us to make this real, he says quietly. Not just for now, but for the future. I know we started with a contract, but I want to take the next step with you. Will you marry me, Sophie? Not because of a business deal, but because I love you. Because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. For a moment, Sophie is speechless. The weight of his words sinks in, and her heart skips a beat. She never thought this would happen, never imagined that the contract, the arrangement that once seemed so cold and calculated, would lead her here. To a real proposal. To a future that is no longer uncertain. With tears in her eyes, Sophie smiles and nods. Yes, she whispers. Yes, I will marry you. And just like that, their future begins. No longer bound by a contract, but by love. Sophie and Lucas have found their way to each other, and this time, it's not just about fulfilling promises. It's about creating a life together, one step at a time. Stay tuned for more, because Sophie and Lucas's journey is far from over. But for now, they've built something real, something worth holding on to.